Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel. I am Katie from Mitza Creek Farm, and I'm sure that if you are a gardener or a farmer or a homesteader, you've already seen the news that the garden zones, the USDA zones, have changed, and ours changed in a big way. So just off the bat, I have my degree in permaculture design, so this is kind of right up my alley. And I'm not an expert in any means. I actually got my degree, so it would help me here around the farm, getting everything where I want them for long term. I feel like I have some expertise, but not nearly as much as other people on this. But what the USDA zones are, hardiness zones, is essentially how cold your area gets in the winter. It doesn't mean when you're going to get your first frost or your last frost. It doesn't mean your season is going to be X amount of days or anything like that. What it means is your area gets to, on average, a certain temperature in the winter. And when it gets to that temperature, the zones mean you should be able to plant certain perennials, certain trees that are not going to die when they get to that temperature. So where we are at is considered zone 3B, or was considered zone 3B. I felt, we've been here for 7 years now, and I felt, especially in the last few years, 3 years probably, that we're more closer to a zone 4. So with that, I have been a little more liberal in my planting and stuff. Some things I will not plant when I'm selling perennials to customers. I have always kept everything at zone 3 or below because even just a few miles from here at my parents' house, or some friends of ours who have a sheep farm just north of the town that we live in, they have extremely different temperatures, and I feel like they were really like more in the zone 3 area, where we just really seem to be more on the warmer side of that. So for us, I felt like we're probably closer to zone 4. They're probably truly in zone 3, 3B, somewhere in there. And that could play a big role into why my mums, when I'm transplanting them in the fall, always seem to do so good, and other people it's hit or miss, because we do have a warmer microclimate right where I'm at. Now, I do know on our farm the different microclimates, and so I know which places are going to stay warmer and more protected from the severe weather, and which places are going to be cold all year round, and which places will still more than likely have snow well into June. So as much as I hate for the zones to changing from a zone 3B to a 4A, I'm kind of excited about it. I'm not excited that the fact that things are warming up, because I know that could be catastrophic long term, and it could cause a lot of issues down the road. But this opens a whole new world for me. So with the zone map, what USDA does is they take every 10 years, they take the previous 30 years worth of data, and they update the map. So it happens every 10 years that ends in a 2. So this year they started compiling the data at the end of 2022, and they updated it now this year. So that means that it's taking 30 years of information and data into account, which is a really good thing, because you want to know, you don't want this to be an every 10-year thing, because if you have an El Nino, which I believe what we're in right now, I don't know my weather terms like that, but I believe we're in an El Nino right now. But I mean, sometimes that could last a year or two. And so if you have a really warm year in a 10-year cycle, that can really mess with things. But taking 30 years, the 1 year of warmth, isn't going to make that much of a difference. So how does this affect us? When I see things that are more of an investment, more expensive, more long-term, that are not hardy down to zone 3, I simply don't buy it. For other things, like let's say mums, because I grow mums for a living, I will, if it's if it's not hardy down to zone 3, I'll still plant it in the ground because I don't have a lot of investment. It's not that much of a risk for me to plant. But a lot of fruit trees are hardy to zone 4. So, and a lot of perennials too. So this really opens up a whole new world for us because I can add a lot more without taking as much of a risk. I know there's always a risk when you're planting. There's a risk they're gonna die. But planting $50 to $100 apple trees, planting long-term things, buying tulips. This opens a whole new world for the tulip and the perennial plant section for me. Filtering by zone 3, things get very limited. Filtering by zone 4, there is a lot of stuff available. But I also know that with that comes pests. And I'm sure we already have the pests here because obviously this isn't something like they flip a switch and it warms up here. But the warmer it gets, the more we're gonna see those pests that usually stay to the south of us. That means they're gonna come. So on one hand, I'm excited, but on the other hand, I'm not, because this isn't a good thing. It would be nice if everything stayed the same, right? And it's going to be a whole new learning curve because we do have new things to learn about and new pests that will make their way here that we will have to learn how to handle and work with. And so yeah, it just is. It feels like a whole new door has opened, and I'm now able to maybe expand my orchard a little bit more. I know that sounds stupid because I struggled planting those 3 trees earlier, but it kind of makes life a little simpler. And even with our pastures, there is not a ton of pasture seed that is hardy to zone 3. We can actually now get pasture seed, because that is a big investment, that is good for shaded areas. So we will be able to go through all of these woods that we've been grazing the sheep and the cows and the goats in the last few years and plant pasture seed in there that is good for shaded areas and really make those into silvopastures. I see a lot of people comment and they think that they'll be potentially having longer growing seasons and all that. And I understand if things are getting warmer, that is a possibility, but that's not what the USDA hardiness zone map means. It just means that it's not getting as cold in your area. So that is it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.